Okay, hi.
Hi. Thanks for talking to me. It hasn't been that long. I think it's been like a week since I talked to you for a little bit. So, but thanks for talking to me. I appreciate it. So what I wanted to start by talking about is, and you have to think back, obviously, but was there any kind of special like preparation you did when you got the role? Like, did you go on ride-alongs? I know sometimes they do that. Anything like that, or did you just research? Just talk a bit about that.
I well, it's funny because when I first, even just like when I auditioned for, and then even after I got the
Mhm.
part of the character description of Liv, which obviously kind of morphed into something different, was that she was sort of um, kind of had a lunch lady vibe, where you know I took that to mean that maybe she was kind of expressionless and maybe really low key. Maybe she didn't talk a whole bunch. I'm not sure. So taking that into preparing for the character was something where I was like, oh, this is a person of few words.
Mhm.
Um, so I definitely kept that in mind. I I'm not saying that if you play like a state trooper or a police person on other shows that that's your research, but I did have some experience when I worked on Fargo.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, so for 3 weeks I was playing a state trooper. Now, granted, it was 1979 and things may have changed a bit, but I did learn some important things like how to hold a gun, how to hold on to someone when you're handcuffing them, how to put them in the police car. So I did have a little bit of experience with that. But I would say for Liv specifically, and I can't remember if it was you and I, Jamie, when we were talking about this last week during the junket, but um, to me, I just really drew upon my little sister energy and being the youngest in a family of always trying to be heard,
Mhm.
but not always being heard. So I think that was a big part of my preparation, was getting back to that place of feeling frustrated and um, sometimes a little unsure of myself, but determined that people will hear me eventually.
Right, right. Yeah, we were talking not about that, but about him listening. Which was the other thing I was going to say. Is it more of like a confidence issue, do you think, for her, or because she's obviously not afraid of him? I mean, she thinks he's a teddy bear. She even says that. So is it like a confidence thing, a shy thing? What do you think she needs to work on? I guess.
Yeah, that's a good question. I was actually just thinking about this the other day. Is it a confidence issue with her or not? And I do think, in terms of, she may have some insecurities around not being listened to by people,
Right.
but I do believe she very much has the courage of her convictions. And when she's very confident in her ability to parse information, I think,
Mhm.
and put everything in the right box. So I would say the confidence issue is more in just having to maybe speak up on how she feels, even though you don't want to bring too much emotion into like your job.
Yeah.
She she has to sort of have the confidence in the fact that eventually people will listen.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
The other thing I would ask you is just you personally, do you think that you would make a good, well, she's not really a detective, but she's doing detective things. Are you good at puzzles? Do you like that kind of thing?
I do like, I always like figuring out the sort of etymology of everything,
Mhm.
like even something that some people might find, boring or really minute, and I'll think, oh, how did that thing happen? Or in that business, how does that run? Or I always want to figure out how something came to be.
Mhm.
So I do think I might have a decent shot at being a pretty good detective. I don't know.
Speaking of that, though, I did want to kind of talk, and I'm pretty sure this is in the third episode back, so it'll probably be before I post this. But can you kind of tease? She obviously goes off on her own a bit with Asta. So can you just sort of talk a little bit about that and her, I guess, pushing it and not listening? Well, she doesn't not listen to him, but she obviously kind of does it without him. Let's say.
Right. Well, she's quite sure that some of her suppositions, some of her theories have legs. So she does decide to go off with Ostad and basically confirm what she's pretty sure she already knows to be fact.
All right. Yeah. She's usually the smart one who's figured it out and everybody else is catching up. So, so I want to ask, obviously her and Asta are friends, but I just want to talk a little bit about the whole alien thing. She's the only person that seems to really know is Mike. And obviously he kind of, pushes off, and her boyfriend, sorry, her boyfriend is too. Why has she sort of not talked to, I guess, her friends about what she thinks is going on and that things are happening? Because she seems to have only really mentioned it to him.
Right. Well, he's her husband, by the way. And it's funny.
Okay. We questioned that.
A lot of people don't know that. Like, I'll see on social media people saying, when's Liv going to get a boyfriend? Or why doesn't she get married? I'm like,
we were actually talking about that on the podcast. We didn't know. So good. Yeah. I got that answer. Go ahead.
She is married. I think she hasn't been, I mean, if I say forthcoming, that makes it sound like she's being dishonest, but I don't think she's wanted to share that side of things with her friends because it is very personal to her. Mm-hmm. And she feels very vulnerable and exposed at the thought that people would write her off as being crazy, mm-hmm. That people might not listen to anything else she has to say from now on because they're judging her because they're thinking aliens aren't real or, whatever they're thinking. So I do think that's the big part of it. It's a small town. And I think especially in a small town, once you get labeled as something, it's very hard to ever sort of overcome that.
That makes sense. And I don't know, because obviously I haven't seen this yet, but maybe you can tease it. Is she going to finally get to meet the alien hunter? Or is she going to, he hasn't written her back at any point, but.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to think if.
She sent a message on the posting board.
Yes, she sent a message on it. And I hope I'm not spoiling anything by saying she will get to meet him.
Okay. All right. How do you think, and we hope this happens, we don't know whether it will or not, but how do you think she'll feel if she finds out about Harry? And will she be mad is the other question if she ever finds out what he did, not just about him being an alien.
Oh, about the fact that he erased mm-hmm. Well, how does Liv feel about Harry in general?
No, if she found out he was an alien.
Oh, if she found out.
No.
I think she'd be very interested. I think a lot of things would fall into place. All these little pieces that we're just sort of writing off as this guy's just a little bit different. Mm-hmm. I think will all of a sudden start to make a lot more sense. So I don't think I don't picture that she would be scared or angry. I think she'd be fascinated, and I think she'd want to pick his brain if he would let her.
So you think she'll forgive him then? Would forgive him? I'm saying this assuming that she'll eventually find out. I have no clue.
No, I have no clue either. Yeah, as a hypothetical, I believe that she would forgive him. I think she would understand that he had to do that mm-hmm. in order to. Now, would she be mad to hear about his mission? At least as
maybe.
Yes, she would not approve of that. But I don't think she would be angry at him for using his abilities to protect himself for a little longer.
All right, that makes sense. Well, I hope she finds out, because we were saying on our podcast before, she's the one character we want to find out. So
yeah, no, I know. I would love it if she got a chance.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a second about the comedy. First of all, is it hard not to crack up on set? Because it seems like it would be.
It can be hard at times, especially if, when we do get a chance to improvise. And if we haven't, because sometimes we'll do some of our sort of improvs in rehearsal to mm-hmm. kind of just try it out. And then we do several takes clean, and then we're allowed to do some takes where we go crazy. So yes, I would say that's probably the most likely time when someone unexpectedly comes out with something that I was not expecting, and it's so funny. But yeah, there definitely have been a few times just in our scripted dialogue where I'm just watching the other person and I can't. There was one time Alan cracked me up, and I was telling someone they actually used my coverage in that scene where I'm kind of smiling when maybe I shouldn't totally be smiling. I could not contain my glee because it was so amazing what he was doing.
Yeah, I know somebody on Twitter had asked me if your improv skills kind of helped you there. So I guess that's a definite then.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So is there somebody who plays pranks on the set? That was the other thing people asked. Is there a prankster like that?
Yeah, you mean like those like famous George Clooney stories you'd hear about him on set doing all sorts of crazy things, like buckets of water above doorways and things. There's not a prankster per se. I would say that Alice Wetterland would probably be the closest thing we have to a prankster. She's sort of like a mischievous, sort of really super smart child sometimes in terms of like the little things she'll do. And so probably Alice would be the closest.
All right, fair enough. What would you like to see happen for your character if you could, write whatever you wanted?
Oh, if I could write whatever I wanted, I think I would definitely want her to be sheriff one day.
Oh, that makes sense.
Not to take Mike's job away from him. This is just in my head, like hypothetically, like he leaves town or something. But I would love for her to be sheriff, and I would love for her to be able to be completely open and honest with who she is, what she's experienced, and how she can apply what she's learned to her everyday life to help others.
Okay, great. We do have to go, but really quick, just like one word answer. Who would you like to have more scenes with that you haven't gotten? I'm sorry? Alan. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay, well, we're out of time, but thank you for talking to me. I appreciate it. I enjoyed it. Looking forward to seeing the rest of the season. We still haven't seen all of it. So.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jamie. It was so nice to talk to you.
Thanks. You too. Have a good day, afternoon. I'm trying to think what time it is.
I know. Yeah, you too.